Yo, 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 welcome to the Living for a Living podcast. I'm the host, Joey Bradley. Excited for our guest today, local Washington hoop legend, 10-year NBA vet, former lottery pick, and I'm interested to hear what he's got to say today. My guy, Spencer Hawes.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, bro, thanks for being here. I'm excited because, we've kind of known each other for a while now, but we never really get to talk too much, working out at Tim's and everything. But once I started this kind of thing, I was like, Spence is a dude like I'd like to know more about. And the whole kind of point of me doing this shit is like just having a conversations with every walk of life, essentially, to essentially show that we're all very similar, and then where we are different, like even we're pretty similar in our differences. And so it's kind of cool. Had Tim in here yesterday, you in here, and so yeah, man, happy to be here. Do you listen to any other podcasts or anything?
I do. I need to get into more of them. I think I listen to more now for entertainment.
Yeah.
And I think one of the coolest things about podcasts is like just in general, in the last 20 years, the access to information we have and the access to knowledge that we didn't have before that's so easily accessible. I think I'm as guilty as anyone of not taking enough advantage of it. And that's what I want to kind of try and immerse myself in more. Nothing against, the comedy podcast or the sports podcast.
Yeah.
I'm as big a Pardon My Take fan as there is, but I think, there's plenty of time in the day to take advantage and consume both.
Right. Yeah. No, I've grown to like the podcast structure just because we're so like caught up in the like 10-second hot take. Sports Center now isn't even Sports Center. It's just all fucking reality talk show TV. Yeah. And so just to be able to get into like having a conversation for 30 minutes to 2 hours, whatever it may be, with limited distractions is like, I think, kind of our next step, maybe to connect more as humans in a way.
Well, and I think it's like you said, you can get so much more in depth. You're not racing for the cutoff for the commercial break, or you're not racing to get this in before whatever kind of restriction you have. It allows for more fluid conversation.
Yeah, no, that's exactly like why I'm doing it. As I like, as and I'll get involved with the Tim conversations at workouts, and those can go forever, and I'm all for them.
It's a nice pause sometimes.
Yeah, it is. And kind of just starting with that, like, how'd you get to know Tim?
So I started working out with Tim early in my career. In the off seasons, when I would come back to Seattle, I'd always come back to Seattle when the season would get over with, and worked with him for a couple summers, but didn't take full enough advantage of having him as a resource, both as a trainer and as a mental coach and everything that he embodies. So fast forward probably 8 or 10 years, when I got waived, I kind of reevaluated how I was going about everything, and I figured, all right, whatever I was doing before wasn't working. I needed to get to the point where I needed to add something, physically. And I thought that, I remembered those workouts and what it brought out of me. And I think it was a natural progression to jump back in with him. And it's done wonders for me physically, mentally, everything across the board. Last year when I picked it back up and went down and played in the G League, I basically went cold turkey. I wasn't even playing that much. I was working out, but I wasn't playing basketball. And I just went basically from, the grind that we do working out with Tim straight into playing games. And really after the first game, once I got my feet under me, I felt that the level of conditioning working with him, just doing the workouts that we do over here, I kind of hit the ground running, and which is a testament to, what he puts us through.
That's cool, man. Yeah. I was wondering about how it translates, because everyone always says like the basketball legs and basketball conditioning, because like I always feel like I'm in good condition, and then I go and run fives and I'm dead after 2 times down the court. But kind of I want to talk about what's currently happening and everything with you, but just kind of to go back, did you play any other sports growing up?
Yeah, growing up, I played a little bit of everything. I played soccer when I was a kid. I remember the game. I gave up 5 goals in the first half and quit afterwards. I told my dad, this shit's not for me. But I skied, I snowboarded, played football, never really formally played football, but played, playgrounds and messing around, fucking around in the backyard, playing with your friends. Played baseball up until about 6th grade when I started playing lacrosse, when my buddy Drew Snyder's dad introduced that.
So that's how you and Drew have that connection? Or?
Well, Drew was my first point guard. So Drew and I started playing like rec league hoops in 2nd or 3rd grade, and then CYO after that. And then it kind of switched over to more his expertise with lacrosse. But yeah, I mean, tennis, golf, everything growing up.
Yeah, I like I said, it's weird doing this because I Google guys, and one of the things that came up was the first pitch at Mariners Stadium in like 2016 looked pretty good, and so I was like, I
wasn't gonna bounce it.
Yeah, no, and the funniest thing of it was like, just I know you're fucking ultra competitive because like as soon as you release it, you're like, it's a little hot.
Yeah,
you know,
it
like,
sailed on me, but it's better than bouncing it, man. When Brockman threw one out before me, and I told him, dude, whatever you do, don't fucking bounce it. And sure as shit, he throws a slider in the dirt.
Yeah. And then like getting into high school, or actually back to basketball, were you always like the dude, or being like a tall guy? Was there?
I kind of had phases because you're the tall kid, and then you're not, and then you have another spurt and you're the tall kid, and you have that advantage, but then you almost have to retrain yourself, like how to move, how to run. For me, I got hurt before my freshman year, so you're starting over basically again. And then when I had my big growth spurt from my freshman year to my sophomore year, I went from 6'4", 145 to about 6'9", 215 over the course of maybe a year, not much longer. And then after that was when I kind of got that footing to really start building up from that point.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, I only played basketball in middle school, but I was the tallest dude.
Yeah.
And so they put me at the 5, but I wasn't mentally a 5, and so I didn't know if you ever had to deal with that.
I was lucky because my dad was my coach all growing up, and I played center, but he was never a center. He was always a shooter, and he was a guard, so I always wanted to play like that. And so when we'd be, playing these games, beating the shit out of teams, I'd beg him, and he'd let me play point guard, and he'd let me pick up defensively, and he'd let switch it up. And I remember distinctly we had a conversation my freshman year because I thought, all right, I'm the tall kid again, I'm gonna be a center. And he's like, look, you're not tall enough at this level to be a center. Like, you need to round your game out. And that was when I really started emphasizing being able to handle the ball, shoot the ball. Passing the ball, I think, was easy for me. I think that's something you can probably relate to.
Yeah.
I think in any sport, having vision, I think, is just kind of that's more of a talent than a skill. I think that's kind of an innate thing that for me has just always come easily. I see the floor. I know, I understand angles and how to, if guys aren't open, pass them open. So I think that was something that has always been something I've been able to take advantage of, but that's, I can't really credit any type of development. That's just one of those things that I've been lucky that's, kind of been a skill that I've been blessed with.
Word. And then, like, dude, I mean, just like I said, I'm looking stuff up, and I knew you guys won state, but you and Martell on the same team in high school, and I was watching some highlights. Like, what was that like? I mean, you guys were just dominant, right? Or I mean,
until we weren't. I mean, we were until the rubber hit the road, and we kind of shit the bed. If you watch the highlights, you'd wonder how we ever lost a game. And I look back, and thankfully we were able to get it done the next year, but I know it still eats him up. The fact that, he was never able to play in the state championship, win a state championship.
Oh, that's right.
So,
because he's a year older than you. Yeah, that's right.
So it was one of those things, like we'd go to a national tournament and just beat the shit out of teams, and then come back here and lose one in Metro. And it's like, how does this happen?
Yeah. But that's also kind of a testament to like the Seattle hoop community in general, right?
Yeah. I think we're on the uptick again. Yeah. There's an incredible influx of talent this generation that's kind of almost a younger generation in high school that's growing up, and then some of the middle schoolers that are coming into the Metro League and surrounding areas. But I don't know if we'll ever see a group as talented as like that 04, 05.
I was like Nate.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, a little bit after Nate, but like Rodney Stuckey, Aaron Brooks, Morrison, Then you go to the next year. Martell, Micah, John Brockman are all McDonald's All-Americans.
That's right.
Marcus Williams, Terrence Williams, both both extremely accomplished college players, went on to have NBA careers. Mitch Johnson played at Stanford, had a great college career. I mean, I think you're going to be hard-pressed to see a single class that has more talent, that puts out 3 McDonald's All-Americans, where you could make an argument for us having 5 McDonald's All-Americans in one high school class.
Damn. Yeah, I read a stat, like, this was a while ago, but at one point there were more dudes in the NBA from Metro or Seattle area code than all of New York.
Yeah, it was crazy. There were like 11 dudes from the Metro League or something crazy in the league compared to 6 from the entire city of city of New York.
Yeah, and New York has that reputation and everything, and we, Seattle, we get kind of lost up in the Northwest, and now we lost the Sonics. And I mean, do you think we're ever going to get the Sonics back?
Yeah, it'll happen. I mean, there's just take out the basketball tradition and the history that we have. It's too viable of a market. There's too much money here. There's too much passion from the fan base perspective, from the hoops community, to not have a team here. The league recognizes that, and I think if they could do it differently, they would have. But I mean, it was a comedy of errors, everything that had to go wrong for that situation for that team to end up in Oklahoma.
And what they moved 08. So because you got drafted 08, or
so I had 1 year. I played one game in Key Arena against the Sonics.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean that's still one of my favorite. Oh, it was incredible. I mean, coming up here, playing, looking up to the seats that I went to games with my dad growing up, and playing on that court, playing against the Sonics. I mean, it was
that
for
Durant's rookie year? All right.
So for a non-eventful regular season game between 2 terrible teams, it stands out to me a lot.
That's sick. Yeah. And going back, when you were getting out of high school, you did just 1 year at UW, and you're a Seattle guy. Was it always UW in your mind? Or was there what were the other kind of ideas when you were coming out of high school? I think
in hindsight it was. And, I had a situation that was kind of unique in the fact that my great-grandfather went to UW. My grandfather went to UW. He rode crew there. My dad went there, played basketball. My uncle went there. Was one of the greatest basketball players that's ever played at UW. So, it was going to be hard for me to say no to that. But at the same time, when you have basically every school in the country, all the blue bloods knocking at your door, taking visits to Carolina, Stanford, UCLA. I mean, you definitely, it wasn't a bygone conclusion by any stretch, but, it's hard. I remember when, my parents made me call every coach that really recruited me and tell them, thank you for everything, but I'm not coming there. I remember when Roy Williams called, and my mom, and Roy's got a great, he recruits the moms. He sells the moms hard, and she loved Roy. She still does to this day. And when he called, and he called the house phone, and she had it, and she was bringing it down to my room in the basement, and I was like trying to hide. I was like, I didn't want to tell him no, but at the end of the day, home is where the heart is.
For sure. And then was the plan always to go 1 year and out? Or
I don't think so. I mean,
with that?
So we were the first class that had to go to college.
Yeah.
So it was a situation where things kind of changed quickly for me individually. So when it was on the table, being able to go out of high school before they changed the rule, I really wasn't one of those guys that was thinking about it. It was out of my radar. And then I had a big summer leading up to it, and then a successful senior year where now all of a sudden all the draft boards and everything, everyone starts asking me, "Oh, you wish you could have gone?" I was like, honestly, when it was still an option, it wasn't an option. So I didn't feel like I'd lost anything when they changed the rule. But that being said, it was always a goal to get there as soon as I could, because I loved playing at UW. It was one of the greatest experiences of my life. But at the same time, I grew up a Husky football fan.
Right.
Like, I went to one basketball game
all
growing up until high school. So it was never it was never my dream to play college basketball. My uncle played in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I always looked up to him, and like any kid, your dream is to play professionally. And so when I had it in front of me, and when it was as close as it was, that was kind of the focus.
Okay, yeah. So it wasn't like that was the plan, but at the same time, the plan was get to the league ASAP and
get off the rookie scale as quick as you can and start earning the big bucks.
Yeah. And then you talked about your uncle. Like how influential was he from? I mean, just a motivate, or how influential was he from, like, giving you tips, and like, did he help you kind of get that mindset to get to the league? Or was it just like a motivation? My uncle did it, so I want to follow the footsteps.
I don't think. I mean, he was never a guy that was like dragging me to go work out and do that kind of stuff. But he was always there when I asked him, whether it was, hey, show me something on the court, talk to me, but can I ask you about this, about that? But I think almost, not more importantly, but just seeing that he could do it and that he did it, it made it way more attainable for me. It was almost like, that's like the family business, right? Like I had an aunt that played professionally overseas. On my mom's side, my dad played professionally overseas. My uncle played in the league for 10 years. It almost seemed like it was so much, it didn't seem like such a pipe dream to be able to do it, because I looked at someone that I was so close to that had already, whose footsteps had already gone through it.
You said it, family business, man.
Yeah.
Family business. And then, like, when you look back on so far, I don't want to say the career, looking back on it, because I see you working every day now, and like, I see the hunger in your eyes. I think the next step's still coming. But like, looking back now, how have you like evolved from getting drafted with the Kings to now?
I mean, the game has changed so much.
Right.
And I almost feel like when I kind of switched over to being a shooter and a stretch five, it was almost a little bit too early, because I didn't have that green light like I would have now if I were in the same situation. So when I came in, I was like a post-up five-man.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I got to the league and I was like, oh shit, this isn't working anymore. Like, I can't post these dudes up. I got to figure out how to handle a little better, pass, shoot. And it's like anything else. If you don't evolve, you're going to get left behind.
Right.
So I started picking up that and trying to change that part of my game to where it is now. I'm most comfortable playing kind of trail and break, having the court in front of me and being able to kind of, be the facilitator as a five-man, whereas 10 years ago that wasn't even, people weren't even playing like that. Yeah. So it's something that, whether it's born out of necessity or kind of that long-rooted desire to be a guard when you're a big man, probably a combination of the two. I mean, that's kind of how it happens.
Gotcha. Where's been your favorite place to play so far, or be? What was your?
I think the situation we had in Philadelphia, that was the place I was the longest.
Yeah. And
when I got traded there, we were a young team. We had no expectations. The first year we started out 3-13.
Okay.
And when you start out 3-13, the odds of making the playoffs is like, I mean, no one was predicting that. And then we ended up sneaking in that year, losing the first round. The next year, we started off really hot. It was the lockout year. I got hurt. Some other stuff happened. We came, kind of back down to earth. Still made the playoffs. Beat the Bulls as a 1 seed. We were the 8 seed. We were all, the core of our team outside of Iguodala and Elton Brand we were all 22, 23 years old.
Okay.
Pushed the Celtics to a game 7 that could have gone either way. So we kind of thought, all right, we got next. And then, just like that, overnight, a couple trades happened, and you're kind of back fighting to stay above water. But I think that process was fun, being part of such a young core and kind of defying expectations.
And you'd say, you talk about trades, and, you've been traded a couple times, and like, that's one thing I've been thinking about lately, of like, what's going on in your mind when you get traded? I can feel like that's a weird thing mentally, or it's just part of the business. I know it's part of the business, but
first time I got traded was June. It was before the draft, and it was in the middle of a softball game. So you're not really, it's summer. You're not worried about it. You're like, I'll figure this shit out in September.
Okay.
Next time I got traded, I was on an expiring deal, so I knew I was going to get traded.
Okay.
The team was shit. You know, they were it was a fire sale. They were trying to rebuild. It was the beginning of like the process in Philadelphia.
So
I
this
knew
was getting out of Philly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I knew it was coming. I didn't know I was going to Cleveland.
Okay.
The rumors leading up to it were a couple other places. The one that I heard the most often was San Antonio. And so you start thinking ahead and visualizing like, oh man, what a dream playing for Pop. You know, my second favorite team all growing up.
Right.
Duncan was my favorite player. I was like, this would almost be a fairy tale. Excuse me. Then Cleveland comes in at the last minute and throws in a second round pick or two, and my agent calls, says you got traded to Cleveland, and then you're like, all right, I guess I'm going to Cleveland. And then the most recent time I got traded, we were on the team bus, and you start hearing, oh, the plane's delayed. Well, we're in San Francisco. It's not a weather issue. So then your spider senses start tingling, and then you go on Twitter and read a Woj bomb that says you just got traded to Milwaukee, and you just kind of one day at a time, you're living in a hotel and, hey, nice to meet you. Let's figure this shit out.
So you literally like find out through Twitter, like most of the time, or I mean, like even before back, because how long has Woj been? You know, I mean,
yeah, I mean, one of them I heard right before the Woj bomb. I think Woj, he texted me beforehand that I got traded from the Clippers to Charlotte.
Okay.
Also in the off season, so it's not the biggest deal. And then the next time I read it via Woj, but through Twitter.
Dang, that's like I've heard of that happening. You know, I forget someone in football. Oh, when they traded Clowney to Hawks, JJ Watt was like, "Yeah, I found out by the caddy on the golf course or whatever." It's like it's crazy to me. And so like do you ever hear from the management, or is it just like
sometimes, but mostly after the fact?
Just
you talk to them, and sometimes you do, sometimes you don't really want to. Most of the time you don't really want to hear from them because
it's over.
What are they going to say? But that's the business side of it, and that's why when you see a fan base getting so caught up in, oh, why is this guy holding out, or why doesn't he want to give him a hometown discounts? Fuck that. Like they'll trade you at the drop of the hat. I mean, look what happened to Isaiah in Boston. Like that guy makes sacrifices so he can have more money to put a team around him. Basically working on a kind of inside deal. Yeah, you're going to take care of me, and then something better comes down the pipeline and they ship him to Cleveland. So stuff like that kind of changes your perspective. For me as a fan, like as a Seahawk fan or Mariners fan, whatever it is, you want to side with the organization, but at your core, you're a player first, and you know what it's like being on that side of it, and you sympathize, even if it's maybe towards the detriment of the team you're rooting for, because you know how fucked up it is being in that situation.
Yeah, that's like the one thing that I've kind of learned throughout, training with some of you guys at Tim's, and this past winter I was working out and training at a facility in Orlando with getting guys ready for the NFL Combine, and like you kind of almost start to lose the allegiance to the team. I'm not even in the league, but then once I know a few guys, like I'm still a Seahawks fan, but I want, like when the Steelers were playing the Seahawks, I have a buddy who's playing for, and I'm like, man, I hope he does really, like
you want your guys to do well. You want your guys to
change your
get paid.
allegiance a little bit. And now, I feel like I have a little bit of a different insight compared to just like common people, where I'm like, dude, they're just dudes that are trying to make some money and do what's best for them. Like, team align, like you said, the owners don't give a fuck about you.
Well, it's not like it. It's not like if I hold out and I'm like, oh yeah, no, take care of everybody else first, and then it's going to come back to me. It's not like in 20 years, whatever team that is going to be paying your fucking mortgage. It's like you got to get as much as you can, as quick as you can, so that you can take care of yourself and your family for the long haul. And then, you can look back, and it's a luxury to be able to look back and have those allegiances, and it's fun to do. But if you don't have, if you don't have the money to be able to take care of yourself, then, first things first, you don't play for your health.
And in 20 years, no one's the fan base isn't gonna remember, oh, he took a cut for that's
not unless you win a championship.
Yeah, exactly. But even then, like, man, Prince died and people said R.I.P. for like a day or two.
Well, yeah, and it's like, people always, give Tom Brady credit. He's always giving the hometown discount. The dude's wife makes more money than him if he would have even if he'd have taken the max. So.
For real. And he's really figured it out with the whole TB12 and his own brand, own protein powder.
Yeah, I mean, if you're
bands.
And like, and it works both ways. Like I tell people, there's no amount that's too much.
Right.
But if you're a superstar that's gotten 2 max contracts, yeah, you can afford to be able to leave some on the table to try and promote your legacy and everything else and put that. But if you're a younger guy that hasn't gotten that first big contract,
right. like Isaiah,
like you got to get the money first and then figure the rest out later.
Yeah, no doubt. It's a tough thing, I think, for people to understand that aren't in that kind of position and don't know the amount of work and a lot of bullshit you got to go through, just to get to that position.
Yeah.
What kind of highlighting, the best, like what do you think like your lowest point being in the league has been?
I mean, it's not really, it's a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Like,
No, that's what I kind of assume because like everyone actually let me start with what percentage of dudes in the league do you think are happy? Or like,
not many.
Right.
And I think KD took a lot of shit when he said it.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're always thinking you're getting fucked. You always think you should play more. You always think you should make more. And it's relative, right? Like obviously we're in an extremely blessed position. Like I'm not going to sit here and bitch about, when you're sitting on the bench in the NBA and you haven't played in 5 games, it's still the best job in the world.
For sure.
But it's relative because like you're competitive, you want to play, you want to show that you still can play and that you provide value. And when you're not getting that opportunity, and that's something I wish I would have realized earlier. Like it's not the end of the world if you fall out of the rotation or you get hurt for a month, whatever it is. It always feels like it is going through it. But that's something I wish I would have realized earlier. Like not letting however you played the last game or the last 3 games, 5 games, like dictate your mood until the next one, which I think we all fall guilty into. Like if I had a bad game, just like anybody, if you have a bad day at the office or your presentation doesn't go well or you don't close the deal, like I took that shit home with me.
For sure.
And it's a perspective that I have now being home and knocking on the door and not having anybody answer. That's like, if I get back in, when I get back in, like I'm not going to stress the day to day like that. Like I'm going to look at it a lot more as what can I do going forward to put myself in the best position. But it's still like any other job. When you're that invested into it and when you care that much, you can't shut it off. It doesn't stop at the office. After every game I ever played, good or bad, when I go home at night, when I'm lying in bed, I'm replaying that game. Right. I'm replaying what I could have done better. I'm replaying what I did well, but you can't turn it off.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was talking to Aaron Brooks like a year ago or so, and he was saying how, he was making good veteran salary for the Wolves sitting on the bench, but it almost got to a point where like he felt bad because he wasn't playing. And he's like, he still wants them. He almost feels like he's stealing in a way.
Absolutely
but then
not.
he's like, and then I thought about my family, and I was like, yeah, bro, come on. But I can see where you get into that mode where you're sitting and you're like you said, I want to prove it, and like there's only the role of the team and everything.
Yeah, but you always want to be the guy that everybody's like, oh, he's robbing him. Like you want to be the guy that's making more money than you're worth, not the guy that's the bargain deal that's like, oh, look at how much this guy's outperforming his contract.
Yeah.
I'd much rather be the guy like, oh, that guy's taking him to the bank.
Yeah. Talking about like roles of teams and everything, how like defined is it, like with and this is me just being ignorant, and my only real knowledge of this type of stuff is like 2K, and in 2K you can designate like star or bench guy or role, that kind of thing. And is it spoken out or does it just kind of come?
It comes and like coaches always have a great saying, like the ball finds a person it's supposed to find. Like
Okay.
when you're on a good team and there's good chemistry, like the guy that's supposed to get 20 shots is going to get 20 shots. The guy that's supposed to get 3 shots is going to get 3 shots. Like it has a way of working itself out. But I think the best teams understand, it's whether it's spoken or not, how there's levels to it. And I think Steve Clifford, who's a coach in Orlando now, who I played for in Charlotte, and I have a ton of respect for, and probably the only coach that I've ever played for that when I wasn't playing, I kind of understood. I was like, well, I get the predicament he's in. We got a lot of centers. Like, I understand it. And he also did a great job of talking to you and explaining, hey, this is how it's going to be for a little while. It's not stuck in stone. But he did a great thing one time, I thought, where before a game or after a game, we were getting ready, and he had everybody's career high. And he read off everybody's career high. And I think it surprises people because even your teammates, that guys that aren't playing or guys that, their roles have changed where they're, more role players and not scorers, you're like, wow, that guy's career high is 35. Like, that guy's gotten 28 in a game. Like, you start to realize, damn, everybody's capable, but that doesn't mean in this situation that's where you bring the most value add to the situation.
Yeah, that's a big reason I asked with the role thing, because compared to football with a 53-man roster and there's one guy that's just a long snapper.
Yeah,
and it's like very
well, it's
obvious.
much more defined. Like
there's less guys that have had that. Like you said, you got role players.
Yeah, you can't. No left tackles rush for 125 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like
exactly.
Basketball, odds are everybody's had a night where they had 15 rebounds or 30 points. Like, if you've been around long enough, that's you've done that. So I think that's what makes basketball tough and great at the same time is finding that balance of, if I'm playing on a different team, maybe I average 5 more points a game. I always tell people like, damn, that guy's averaging 19. Well, yeah, they're 15 and fucking 55, and they're not going to average 80 points a game. Like, someone's got to score.
Yeah, true.
But if you're going to be on a good team, is that the best thing that you can do to help the team be better?
For sure. That's good. Well put. Yeah, because I just relate that to football and the ego, because guys have done, the role players scored 35 before, like the egos are going to be bigger in a sense, and so that can be tough to manage. And have you ever been in like a bad situation with the ego stuff? Not you or you personally, or just guys around you. You don't have to name names.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's oftentimes the veteran guys that are bitter because they've done it before and they feel like they earned it more. And there's a lot of politics that go into it. Like, right. If I'm a center and I'm not playing, up to certain standards, and they go draft a young center, like, your time's probably coming. So, a lot of times you feel threatened, and it's a fine line between like, hey, I want to help this guy along. I want to be a good vet, show him the ropes. But like, damn, if I give him all these tricks, like, is that my job coming up? So it's, I always tried to pay it forward because I thought I was lucky to have a lot of great people around me that showed me the way and showed me the ropes and how to be successful on the court, off the court, whatever.
Who was the best with that?
Elton Brand, I think,
Elton
for me.
Brand?
Yeah,
Okay,
was a guy that really and basketball was one thing. I mean, watching his routine and the way that he worked, his consistency on the floor was one thing, but even little shit like how to take care of people, like how to tip the bellman, how to tip, this person, like that kind of stuff, how to take care of, people in different situations, I think was something that, there's more to it than just being a good player.
Yeah, and that's super important because you said it earlier, is like you on the 76ers team, you only had like 3 veteran dudes, and then the rest is like 20-year-old,
We're just all young shitheads trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and so, I mean, what's the dynamic with that? Because like NBA to me, I think probably has the biggest age gap amongst teams, on
because you have guys like me that are coming in at 19 into situations where everybody else on the team has kids and shit, and that's what you feel like.
Yeah.
So it's a weird. I mean, that's something that I look back at that still kind of blows my mind. Like, damn, you were in the league at 19. Like, I come back for All-Star break, and I'm hanging out at the frat house, or it's the off season. My friends go back to college, and I'm at like a grab a date party, and then I go home, and my mom's trying to give me a curfew. And I know in 2 weeks, like, I'm going back to training camp. Like, it's just that was a weird dynamic.
Holy smokes! Yeah, didn't even 19 in the league. What? I mean, was it too much, or how do you feel like you handled that?
I mean, I think pretty well all in all, but I'm lucky to have, great parents that were there, and that when I needed them literally to be down in Sacramento, they were there for that, but also gave me my space to be able to take my lumps and kind of grow on my own, and not, I didn't have a bunch of people living with me. I didn't have anybody move down when I got in the league. So I think kind of looking back and seeing guys now, like how it could have gone, I'm pretty happy with, not to say that you don't make mistakes and you don't learn from them, but I mean, I played 2 full seasons in the league where I couldn't even, I could because I could get in, but I remember I was out one time in Sac, and I was 5 steps into the club before my phone rang, and it was a security guy telling me to take my ass home. Like,
really?
Yeah, it's just stuff like that where you're like, man, it's funny to think back now that, like, you lived it.
Yeah, that is, damn, 19. Yeah, 2 years before you can even legally drink.
Yeah.
Were there a lot of, like, how much kind of pull do you really have in a position like that?
I mean, as much as you want to. If you want to get in trouble, you can figure out a way to do it. But at the same time, you also don't want to get a reputation where, you want to give teams, organizations the least amount of things to worry about as possible.
Right. And going back to is, we talked about the happiness of average guys in the league, or, the percentage of guys. Like, what was some of your, like, lowest points of
I mean, anytime you get traded, that's always just a stressful endeavor. When you're losing, everything sucks. Practice sucks. Traveling sucks. I mean, it's just, you're kind of miserable. I think the situation in Philadelphia when we thought we were so close, and then it was almost like a reset, and then you get benched, you fall out of favor. It takes its toll. I think when I got my last year in Charlotte, my first year in Charlotte, I was hurt, and I hurt my back, and it just took time. I mean, it was like 6 weeks where at first you can't move, then you can barely do PT. You just feel so disconnected, and like I wasn't traveling. I was doing PT in Charlotte, so the team's on the road. Basically, you have an hour a day where you have something to do, and then you're just at home. I was by myself, in Charlotte. Nobody there, where you're just like, no end in sight. Like, damn, this is just
lonely.
This is not what I signed up for. But at the same token, I mean, everyone gets dealt bad hands at a certain point, and it's kind of a testament. It shows more how you deal with it in those situations than it does when you're making shots and you're the man and things are rolling.
For sure. And I mean, what's now getting more current? Like, what's your mindset right now? Like, you've had a successful career thus far. What's the, like, motivation? Because I like I said earlier, man, I can see it in your eyes. I see the way you're working. Like, you're fucking motivated. And
I mean, I'm more motivated now than I was coming in, than I was at any point in my career, because it came easy. Like, I came up, high school, I was McDonald's All-American, Parade All-American, played in USA basketball, started and all that. Like, it went pretty much the way that you would try and draw it up. Right. You go to do your year in college, you go to the league, take your lumps early, and then it kind of starts going. And now that, the phone's not ringing and you're on the outside trying to get in, that puts a different spark in you, where it's like, my motivation is to get back and show, that someone in a situation like mine, that, the easy thing for me to do would just be to hang them up.
Right.
Throw the Nikes on the wire, take a picture like beast mode. Fuck you. Like, I made my money. I saved my money. It's time for the next thing. But I love the game, and I love playing basketball, and I want to play basketball at the highest level, that was all I knew for a decade plus of my life.
Yeah.
So the motivation is, like, I want to play at that level again, and I want to show other people that are going through it, or that are struggling, or that, that are on the downside, like, you work, you handle yourself the right way, that, that is possible in anything, not just making a sports team, whatever it is. Like, you grind hard enough and you start to earn your breaks. And I think that's my goal, is both personally and to show other people that, if you dedicate yourself to it, you can get in, get back, however you want to put it. Like, it's kind of yours for the taking, but you got to go about it, and you got to handle your business to be able to make it happen.
For sure. What's your training schedule right now? I mean, I know we're at Tim's 3 days a week.
Yeah, I mean, that's
outside of that.
That's the strength and conditioning stuff. A lot of work on the court.
Yeah.
Played a lot of pickup this summer, more than I usually do, just to try and keep those arrows sharp. And then getting into some kind of alternative stuff. I do a lot of yoga now.
Okay.
A lot of it's injury prevention, just keeping everything, flexible, loose, trying to control as much as you can, having your body in the best shape to be ready. Because like I said, last year when I went down and played in the G League, like, that was a decision made on Sunday that by Wednesday I was playing in a game. So you never know who's going to get hurt, who's going to need a center. It could happen tomorrow. It could happen in 3 months. But you don't want to not be in a situation where you can't hit the ground running if the opportunity calls, because it's much less on my terms than it was before.
Got you. What's the biggest difference? How close is G League to the league? Not close? Or what's the main
It's
difference?
much less structured.
Okay.
I think there's much less discipline in the game.
Okay.
Offensively, the systems are simpler. Defensively, the systems, at least in my experience, were much less complicated.
Okay.
It's much more talent based, I would say, but it's evolving more so into like the NBA team putting their system on the kind of minor league team. But it's I'd say it's more mano a mano. Like, it's like, all right, I got to lock my guy down and I got to beat my guy.
Okay.
As opposed to kind of letting the system dictate success more on both ends.
Gotcha. And talked about your mom playing overseas, and would you be open to playing overseas?
Absolutely. I mean, I think if the situation were right,
Yeah.
I would love to do it. I always said that that's how I wanted to finish my career.
Okay, cool.
Going over and experiencing that. I was hoping it would have been a little more on my terms, but no, I would love to. I've always loved traveling and enjoyed that, and I feel like just my personality. I've been on a lot of teams in situations where it happens quickly, where you have to adapt. Basketball wise, but also life wise, getting to know new guys, striking up new friendships, building new chemistry. So that's something that I don't fear it from that regard, but I'm not in a hurry to go live somewhere that I don't want to be for 8 months,
Yeah.
Playing 2 games a week with nothing but 2 days the rest of the time. It's like, it's hard because you get, like I've been back here for the last 2 holidays. So you realize all the stuff you miss out on and being back. And it's like, it's easy to get comfortable, but you also have to find an ability to say, all right, I got the rest of my life to do that stuff. Like, I got a finite window here where I got to take advantage of, the gift that I've been blessed with.
And if with the overseas, I'm very interested
Yeah.
in that, doing what I'm doing. And would you view it more as like you want to play at the highest level
Yeah.
overseas, or like more of a a place you want to be?
I mean, I think
Or
for me, it's the
combo.
highest level.
Highest level, okay.
I mean, there's definitely a combination.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to go, I'm not in a hurry to go play in the first division and I don't want to throw anywhere under the bus. But
If it's winter, you don't want to be in Finland. I know.
yeah,
you got
no,
the
I know.
connections
My dad played in Finland. I'm well versed in that.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I want to play at the highest level possible. And
Okay.
and if it's not the NBA, then whatever's the next step, that would be the goal, because I'm competitive. I have a lot of confidence in my abilities, and I want to show, like, hey, if I'm not getting a chance here, then I'm going to show you that wherever else it is, like, show people what they're missing out on.
Yeah, you're making a mistake. I mean, this is a tough question, I think, but what do you think's why aren't you getting that call, do you think?
I mean,
that's a
it's
tough
something
one.
that you think about a
Yeah.
lot, and you churn over and you beat yourself up. I mean, teams aren't teams used to keep 3 centers. Like that was a standard.
Yeah.
Every team would have 3 traditional centers. Rosters have changed. Big thing that's hurting veterans is the two-way contracts now. And
that's where you can play G and then come up.
You can play a certain number of games in the league, but it counts as a roster spot for the league. So if you have a guy in a two-way, you're paying them 150, 200 grand. If you sign a guy like me that's got 10 years of service,
right,
that's $2.5 million bucks
minimum, right?
So if you're looking for insurance at the end of the bench and you're strung against the cap, that's not helping. That's costing us. And not just me. I don't want to make it seem like I'm the only guy. There's a lot of guys that, if the system wouldn't have changed how it did, would be in the NBA right now that don't have that opportunity. So there's a combination of factors that are making it more difficult than it probably was before.
Gotcha. Yeah, one thing I read and I'm interested to see is, you're considered now, I guess, one of the openly conservative NBA guys. And like this fucking article I read was saying that you and somebody else are being blacklisted, almost like the white Colin Kaepernick, not to do
no, I mean, you think about that too, and it's like, yeah, if I could go back, I probably wouldn't have worn that Hillary for Prison shirt the night before the election. Like that was something I would do differently. But at the same time, like you have those debates because every 4 years it comes up and it's what people talk about, and it's like I've never had an issue with any teammate over it. I think there's actually people will be surprised how open the conversation is. And like I remember talking to a guy one time before the 2012 election, and I was like, my perspective is like, you're making $5 million a year. Like why would you support someone that wants to take, you already pay a ton in taxes. Like, why would you support someone that wants to take more of your money out of your pocket?
Yeah.
And I don't remember who it was, but they were like, look, man, I grew up on welfare. Like and he's like, that's what allowed my family and I to like eat. And he's like, if me giving up more of my money goes to that, then he's like, I can't object to that. And I was like, that's something that I can't necessarily relate to, but I understand better where you're coming from, because that's just not a situation that I've ever been in. But it's interesting because there's not, I don't remember really anybody in the NBA circle, at least, that took that kind of rang the conservative bell. And it's just, I'm not going to change who I am, what I believe in, to try and fit into it. But at the same time, there's, like I said, the Hillary shirt, I probably would have done. I'd have done that a little differently.
Yeah. It's literally, this article or whatever I read was you and Andrew Bogut, but Bogut's not even an American guy. Yeah. And so I was like, damn. Well,
he's kind of doubled down.
Yeah, for real, he has.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't plan on asking, but what's your thoughts coming up for the next election? I mean, are you into politics? Like,
not like I used to be. I can't stand it anymore. I mean, I thought it used to be kind of fun, like going down in the mud, but it's just getting insufferable to me now. And obviously, like, I'm going to pay attention. Like, it's going to be impossible not to.
Yeah.
I think the debates are going to be terribly entertaining, but I'm not into it like I used to be.
Yeah.
No, I just can't take it anymore. It's like,
to me, and I've never fully. I was super into it, like when I was like 18, first got to write. Ron Paul was the guy.
Yeah.
I was a big Ron Paul guy. And then it ended up just, like you said, just becoming maddening almost.
Well, and it's like, it's so divisive. Like, I mean, there was like, after Trump won, like, families divided. My family was divided. Like, there's a cousin that still doesn't come to family Christmas.
Really?
I haven't seen him since Trump won the election. And like, I don't care which side of the aisle you fall on. Like, just when people make it personal, that's where I have the issue. And when they take your political stance and make that a reflection of like your individual character, and one way or another, like that makes you a bad person because you fall on whatever side you fall on, like, that's what I have a problem with when it gets that far. And when people start stereotyping other people so far based on where they stand on whatever issue, like that's what bothers me about it. And that's why I'm not going back into it like I used to.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, that's what I've had to I mean, just like even just talking everything in our society right now, Sports Center, the political scene, like it's all just about the hot take.
Yeah, it's just like clickbait.
Everything's personal. Everything is so polar. If
and it's so black and white. It's like everything's gray. Like there's not.
If everything is now of if you don't like this, that means you hate that.
Yeah.
And it's like that's not how
or
it is.
Or if you subscribe, if you're a conservative for these reasons, you have to be conservative on all these other social issues. Like it's not, everybody's unique. Like there's some people that are radical on both sides, and those are the problem. But the majority of us fall much closer to the center than I think we realize. And if we took the time to talk about, you'd understand, like, hey, like we talked about earlier, if I'm a conservative and you're a liberal, if we take 10 minutes, we'll probably figure out that we have more in common than we don't.
Exactly.
But that doesn't sell, that doesn't sell cable news. That doesn't sell newspapers. Like that's not what gets people's eyes. Like they want the all or nothing. And it's too bad because it's driven us to the divisiveness that we find ourselves in today.
No doubt. Yeah. I mean, that hit it on the head is with this whole thing. I'm trying to really, in the times that we are so divisive and divided and over, political, race, age, class, whatever it may be, in whatever nationality, like in my experiences so far with the little adventures I've done, man, we're all way fucking closer to being similar than we are.
And I think that's one of the coolest things that basketball's done for me is like, you're exposed to so many different people with so many different stories, and not just like, I mean, black, white, not just on those, but like I had a teammate that grew up in Soviet Lithuania, and I got to talk to him about what is it like growing up in a communist country, like something that's so far from my experience that I never would have been exposed to if it weren't for basketball, connections that I never would have made if we weren't in the same locker room, traveling together, eating together, hanging together, playing together. Like it's a side of the world that you never would have the opportunity to learn more about, which I think is the important thing. Like everybody's got a different story. Everybody's got different circumstances that they grow up in that shape them. But sports, I think that's one of the things that's so cool about it. Like you get an opportunity to learn the other side of things and how at the end of the day, like, man, we're much more connected than we realize.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. You're reading my mind almost. Like that's my biggest thing from football I've taken up is, grew up in Issaquah, Washington, middle upper class, like, maybe a couple black dudes at my high school ever, other ethnicities as well, but then through football, like always connected, and it didn't matter. And sports in general, I guess that's my favorite thing about American sports culture is like once you get on those sports teams, like for the most part, I guess I had a couple racist, like openly racist dudes in my North Dakota team.
Yeah.
But that's expected almost. But for the most part, it's like, can you help us win?
Yeah, it's like,
or not?
Can you play or not?
Can you play? Yeah,
if you can play, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, be
like,
an alien for all you know. Like, and I think that we're at a time right now where more people like that could be very beneficial for a lot more people to understand. And it's a big reason, I kind of see myself like living abroad, possibly permanently eventually. But then the mindset of like, if and when I ever have a kid, like I'd want the kid to maybe be an adolescent abroad, but I want them growing up in the American sports culture, if that's what they're into or whatever. But just because I know the effect that it's had. And
I mean, like for me, I grew up similar situation, like on Queen Anne.
Yeah.
There was no diversity in my grade school, K through 8, the Catholic school I went to. Not much more in my high school. Then all of a sudden you get to college and it's like, oh, this is a whole new world.
Yeah.
But when you grow up playing sports, you're used to it and you're accustomed to it. And then all of a sudden you get to the league and it's like, I've been on teams where I'm the only white dude.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's awesome, especially growing up when you don't, I think everyone grows up more isolated than they realize.
Yeah.
But then you get into a situation like that and you're like, it's so unique and it's such an opportunity to grow and to learn more about, all the other aspects of society and culture, when you're in those situations.
Right, totally. Who's been one of your like best friends throughout your career in the league that you really?
Man, I've been lucky. That's one of the things about playing on a lot of different teams is you get a lot of different teammates, and you have opportunities to make connections that you never would have had. But I mean, I still talk to a lot of different guys that I played with and keep tabs on their careers. I mean, man, there's a lot of them going through from Philly. I mean, Evan Turner, Drew Holiday are still guys that I try and keep up with. Playing in Charlotte, Frank Kaminsky, Marvin Williams, dudes that I really got along with. From the Clippers, I was lucky to play with Jamal, who's a guy that I'd always looked up to, that had taken me under his wing when I was just a high schooler trying to get a spot in the pickup run.
Okay.
You know, Blake, JJ, guys that I kind of knew growing up, but really got to know playing with the Clippers. I still talk to. I mean, there's so many dudes that it's the fun part about it. Like, you just any random night once the season gets over, and you keep tabs on your guys, and you know, you keep the conversation going.
Yeah, that's cool. Like, what do you think is? I mean, man, I almost don't even want to ask this, but like, when are you gonna make the decision of like, maybe let's go play overseas? Or
I mean, it's just gonna be on a kind of opportunistic basis.
Yeah.
Like, I want to keep playing. Like, I don't want to just keep working out, waiting. I've done that.
Okay.
The shit's just.
Where are you at right now with Milwaukee? And I know you had
I mean, it's nothing like I kind of was hoping for. You know, I was hoping to be in training camp at this point with somebody, but I don't want to keep just working out. I mean, I've done that. It's a battle every day until you kind of get to Friday, and then you're like, all right, I'm going to distract myself with a Husky game or a Seahawk game, and then Monday morning rolls around and you feel like it's Groundhog Day. So I don't want to just keep doing that, but I also don't want to rush into a situation where I know I don't have an opportunity to be happy or feel like it's going to be fulfilling, because my biggest fear is going into something like that and then that being the nail in the coffin. So I want to keep my motivation as high as I can and keep the dream alive as much as I can, to just keep grinding like I have been, and just keep making myself a better player, you know, better person a day at a time. I think that's the thing that has kind of come from this on a positive side. Like, I wouldn't, I mean, if I was playing in the league again, I'd say I wouldn't do it differently, and it's worked out, but I can't say that at this point. But there have been a lot of positives that have come from the situation, and, you know, my perspective shifted, my priorities have shifted. I think, you know, I think I'm definitely a better player than the last time I played in the league. I feel like I'm a more rounded person. You know, I'm not interest-wise. I've grown. My perspective has changed. I've definitely.
What do you mean exactly by that?
I mean, just like we talked about earlier, like not defining your happiness or your mood by how you played in the game before. Like, there's more stuff to life. There's more. You know, there's hobby, there's other interests, there's other stuff, there's other ways to find fulfillment and make yourself happy, that before you just define yourself as strictly, I'm a basketball player, I'm a football player, and then how am I going to treat people, what mood am I going to be in, is just based off whether it's rolling or not.
For sure, yeah. That's something I've really been coming to the grips of in the last couple of years as well, especially this has been my longest breaks.
I got to find other shit to make me happy, man.
For real, man. You really do. And what are you currently, like, game-wise, what are you working on the most? Like, what's your main focus?
Just, I mean, you always want to get better at everything, but I think I know, like, if I get back, my role is going to be to stretch the floor, to space, to be able to move well enough to guard multiple positions, or try and guard multiple positions. So I think it's just continuing to foster that mindset and grow as much as possible with that part of that stage of the game, I guess.
And then what are you working on off the field at all? Like, what are those other hobbies that you've been getting into?
I mean, I've been golfing a shit ton, probably more than my game would indicate. But no, I've had fun doing that. Just being around Seattle and reconnecting with people here that you don't really have the time when it's you're just here for a little bit in the off season, kind of reconnecting with the community, I'd say, in that regard. And then I've been cooking a lot, man. It's something that I never really did before that has brought me a lot of joy. And it's something that I've really, I mean, every breakfast now, I used to go out for breakfast 5 days a week. Now
Okay.
I rarely do that. I don't go out to eat very much anymore. It's kind of like trying to experiment at home and figure out that whole side of things.
Yeah, I saw on the gram the other day you had what was it, lamb and
No, it was duck.
Duck and
the
veggies.
duck
That's
skillet.
right. I knew
Yeah,
it was
man,
it was
ooh,
a semi-exotic.
so easy. So easy.
What's your go-to? What's your breakfast you're going to?
It depends. Like on the days we have Tim, when I know I'm really gonna be burning some calories, I'll do more. Like I'll do a hash or a scramble or maybe like the Kodiak cake waffle.
Okay.
And then on days when it's a little lighter, just like yogurt, berries, a couple eggs, and 6 cups of coffee and keep it moving.
6 cups. That's how you're wired. Yeah, man. Shoot, I know. I was watching on the gram the other day and just thinking, Spence is kind of getting into
I'm
little
getting nice
chef
with it.
mode.
Yeah, I'm getting nice with it. And it's like, shit, I got a lot of time on my hands. So it's
Yeah.
something, planning out the meal, getting all the ingredients, prepping everything. It's like anything else where it's similar to basketball where like I've learned to appreciate the process more than just the result. Whereas before I dictated everything based off the end result,
Yeah.
which is just not hedging your bets the right way for like happiness.
Yeah.
Enjoying the whole process from start to finish and like feeling like, you created something, especially if you have other people around to share it and enjoy it with, I think is very fulfilling.
For sure. And then also you mentioned before we even started this, you were like in Zen place. Are you into meditating or visualization? What's your kind of...
More, I think the yoga helps a lot with that,
Okay.
with the mental clarity. A little bit of the meditation and just reading, I think is something that I've gotten back into more.
Okay.
And trying to just find those other ways to feel like you're learning, you're growing, and you're progressing in kind of the totality of your being. I guess that's a little philosophical, but
That was nice, man. That was really good. And what about like visualization or anything?
yeah, I mean that's never been something that I've been too big into,
Okay.
but just I'd say more than visualization, just having a more positive outlook on like, all right, I'm going to go attack this workout, and like I'm not going to worry if I'm missing shots or if it doesn't go well today, I still got something out of it. Like I still got better.
Right. What's something right now that you are working to improve? Like either a bad habit you're trying to break or just something you want to personally be better about moving forward in life?
I think being just, it's simple, but like being more optimistic, being more positive in situations. I've recently had a mentor pass away, one of my coaches, Jim Marsh, who I was really close with. And I think outside of my dad influenced my career more than anyone that I've ever been around. And like going through and talking to people and kind of through the grieving process, like the memorial service last Saturday, it was awesome. I was honored. I had the opportunity to speak and tell a story, and so did so many other people. And the theme that we kept hearing about him was, you never heard him talk bad about anything. You never saw him in a bad mood. Even when he got Parkinson's, the way he handled that and the way that he looked at everything with the glass half full and how can I make the best of it. I think that's one thing that I'm going to try and do to carry on his legacy is really to embrace more of that in my life and try and project it as well onto people that you're around, so that you're a person that people look forward to kind of being in their circle and not the other way around.
Hell yeah, man.
Because I like to talk shit. So
yeah.
it's there's a fine line though.
Yeah, but I mean, I know. I hear with you and Mike, and I mean that's how I know you're so competitive
Yeah.
when you and Mike are coming into the gym. Or
It's hard when you're always beating him, but
Sorry, Mike. You knew that was coming. And
like a light.
but no, to relate with you, man, is I had my uncle's memorial, and I wasn't super close with them maybe a couple weeks ago. And just like being in that, and I was talking to Tim about it too, is just being in that kind of environment where you're listening to people speak about
that's what you want to be
someone's life.
remembered for.
Yeah, it really made me kind of think a little bit more about legacy.
Yeah.
And like, I've always been a kind of mindset of like, what's the saying is like, treat people so well so that way if anyone speaks bad about you, it says more about them than it does about you, you know? And so I've kind of used that, but then it really just like made me think too, like, we don't have that much time.
No.
And like, what do I really want to accomplish, and what do I want to be remembered by? And so it's funny. I think there's something to it because, you know, Tim's talked about it. You've talked, like, it's been a very common theme and people I've talked to lately. And so I don't know. It's just something that's kind of came to my mind.
Absolutely. And I mean, I've been a shithead for a long time. And so, you know, that's something that's like, I know I can be better about.
And what do you mean though? By
I talk a lot of shit. Like I think that's a way that I show, like, if I fuck with you, that's a way that, you know, that kind of, you know, that I'm in your circle, and not that you need to turn that off, but just being cognizant that not everyone relates that way.
Right. Yeah. Although true, that is, I know that is funny, is talking shit. Do you, like, were you a shit talker in games too, or no?
Sometimes, but not usually an instigator.
Okay.
Because I always knew, I learned early, if you bark up the wrong tree, you know, it's like 82 games, you're not, you know, you never know how a guy's feeling or what might get him going. So you don't want to be the guy that kickstarts somebody, because I know I've been on that side of it where you go into a game like back to back or end of a road trip and you're just like, man, fuck, let's just get this, let's get a win and get this thing. You know, the saying that I remember a coach had early, let's get some ass and get out of town. So I know that, you know, when you don't feel like you have everything and then someone says something that kickstarts you, it's like, I never wanted to be the guy that did that for somebody else, but if it's coming my way, I'm not going to, you know, fuck you. I'm not going to, like, it's not going to be a one-way street.
Who's gotten you going before? Or who's a shit talker in the league that maybe we don't really know about, that in your experience?
Oh,
call some guys out.
I mean, it's mostly the guys we know about. Like, Sheed used to talk a lot of shit.
Yeah.
KG obviously was always talking shit. It's always, a lot of times though, it's the kind of the bummier dudes that like do it because it gets them going, and like they do, it's like a compensation thing where you're like, what are you talking shit? Like, you're on a 10-day, dude. You can't afford to be talking shit. Like, I'm not going to hear it from you.
Interesting. Yeah.
And young guys always talk shit. They always come in talking shit. Like, they think that's how they establish themselves.
What's the, like, relationship in the locker room when there is, like, when you came in when you were 19 and a young guy and probably talking a little shit, like, what, you're at the Kings, Brad Miller was there?
Yeah.
Like, Brad
talks a lot of shit.
Yeah, he talks a lot. I know. So you're learning, but what's the relationship in terms of, we've kind of touched on it, but the difference in age, like, are the older guys at times like, these stupid kids?
Yeah, oh, definitely. Like, and then it switches quickly. Like, all of a sudden overnight, you're like, these fucking guys and their sense of entitlement coming in. Like, there's not really an in-between period. Like, you just wake up one day and you're like, oh, fuck, I'm on the other end of the aisle. And so you're like, all right, I gotta help these guys understand, like, you got to pay your dues as a young guy. You got to carry bags. You got to run errands. You got to go pick up whatever someone wants at 3 a.m. Like, you got to, it doesn't matter where you're drafted, how it's going. Like, there's pecking order. And it's like anything else. I learned it early. If you fight it, you allow for weight. Like, it's almost like you're inviting it.
Right.
But if you just do it, and if Brad says he wants a tin of Skull, go get him a log of it. Like, it's just like, the quicker you just, yes, sir, and get it done, the sooner you find yourself not having to do shit like that. But if you fight it, you're going to be doing it for the rest of the year. And I'm still probably going to make you wear a backpack into your second year until you get to that 82nd game.
That's awesome, man. Well, bro, I've enjoyed the conversation. I think, you know, we're at that hour mark, and I know you got to go set up shop for the Hawks games.
Here
baby.
We go.
Who all you got coming over? Just
I got the crew, man. We got the boys coming over. We're gonna start putting our 12 hats on.
Awesome, bro. Well, dude, I appreciate this, and I'm hoping, you know, this can be a thing that, you know, I think everyone has something to say.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, like, we don't even know how powerful our platforms are. You know, I'm talking as a guy that hasn't done too much. You know, I think our platforms are much different, obviously, but I think we have so much more power from a platform, mentally, physically, everything than we're led to believe. And so, man, I hope this can possibly be a more regular thing whenever I am in town. But I appreciate it, bro.
Absolutely.
It's been fun to learn some shit about you.
Yeah.
And
Thanks for having me. I love that you're doing it.
Yeah, I appreciate it, bro. Thank you.
All right.
I'm lying